Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TERA in 10, your weekly bite-sized source for all things TERA. We cover everything and anything from patch notes and screenshots to en masse news and community projects. So sit back, take 10 and keep up to date on the latest TERA developments. Hello again and welcome to episode 2 of TERA in 10. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy taking a look at the last 7 days. I'll quickly give praise to those that gave me feedback in the last episode. I've taken a lot of the suggestions on board and hope that this sequel is a vast improvement on the, shall we say, poorly funded and heavily rushed introduction to the series. Yes, we shall. Since the last episode, I've managed to procure a graphics card that wasn't made before the birth of Christ, and subsequently it's granted me the magical ability to record in-game footage, which leads beautifully into my next point of ding, level 38. Yes, of course, what we are talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is the pre-order head start and official launch of TERA in the United States. Now, en masse had its issues in the open beta with regard to inaccessible servers and being a full working week before liftoff. One would expect certain issues of certain natures regarding certain server queues from not being an issue, which begs the question of why was it so hard for everybody to get into the game. Personally, I was fine apart from one incident of being kicked from Cultist Refuge, one mob from the final fight, and then being forced to wait 40 minutes before I could complain about it in /G, but I am a minority and I understand that many potential players were unable to enjoy the fruits of en masse's seed at all. There was an attempt to alleviate the queue issues, which primarily involved a Sunday lunchtime introduction of a new PvP server dubbed a hideously cliché title of Feral Valley. Still, enough moaning. Congratulations to en masse for publishing TERA in NA, and I genuinely wish you the best of luck with the game's future development. In other news, the EU community received a letter from Frogstar that I initially considered to be satire, but turned out to be a bona fide apology regarding changes that were made to the client both without need and request. I won't delve into the publisher's hideously warped concept of morality, or for that matter its standards of communication with the user base, but I have included a link to the original article in the description if you'd like to give it a butcher's. While we're talking all things modification, I'll quickly mention a website I came across. In essence, it takes the original Korean and Japanese elements of the game and incorporates it into the EU and NA clients. Stuff like voices and cutscenes are all there, so if you want the originals, you can go and get them. Please note that I don't know either publisher's stance on using these files. I have warned you. Really do consider your decision before you use these, and don't say that I didn't warn you. As with everything else, you can find a link to the website in the description. And now it's time for a new feature called Informative Friendly Functional In-Game Counselling, or as it shall now be known, TERAIFFIC. Get it? Okay, so in essence, this is a part of the show where you receive a tip, trick, or piece of advice that will make your TERA experience more fulfilling and functional. So strap yourself in and be prepared to have your bloody socks blown off. So let us assume that you are in-game, let us assume that you are trolling around, and let us assume that you get ganked in a moment of lag and or AFK-ness. Let us then further assume that you want to laugh at the person's hideously pathetic and inferior gear while hurling insults at them, and let us finally assume that you have knowledge of the inspect command. Yes, today's tip is the inspect command. Put simply, you type /inspect, space followed by the player's name, and you will bring up a GUI interface made using Visual Basic that will help you track your killer's information. Inspect shows you the character's level, equipment, infamy, guild name, mining level, reputation, and their kitchen sink. You can use this command on any online player regardless of location or proximity to you. Have fun and enjoy. That was your TERAIFFIC tip for this week, and it will remain as a feature on the show for the foreseeable future. Speaking of futures both foreseeable and not, it's time to take a look at what the Korean community is telling us about the future of TERA. A big shout out to Cory, or Corey as it may be pronounced. He's a poster over on the EU forums that basically provides a backbone for EU and NA to understand what's going on in the Asian side of TERA. As always, the link's in the description, so if you want to take a look at this thread for yourself, you can go ahead and do that. The core thing that I want to talk about today is the 10v10 Battlegrounds format. I think that battlegrounds are a great thing for any MMO. They're essentially a core element, and it's great that you can get gear and that type of things with token or whatever type of trivial resource they provide for people to get better gear from battling. Essentially, the Korean developer diary entry states that battlegrounds are coming. They're coming in a 10v10 format, and there will be matchmaking included with that. So you don't necessarily have to have 10 people from your guild up against 10 people from another guild. You can just queue in as a solo, maybe a duo, maybe as a 4, maybe a 5, whatever. But essentially, battlegrounds are coming. It's going to take a while, but they will be here, and I think it's going to be a great improvement for TERA. I think PvP is wonderful, and hopefully we'll also see battlegrounds on PVM servers. On top of that, we've got news from the Korean developer diaries about Warrior and Lancer changes. Essentially, they're going to have a tertiary resource bar, so that's a third resource bar, and it's going to be dubbed Stamina. It's going to be a yellow bar just below their mana bar. The change is essentially supposed to, or at least I can figure out, the change is supposed to make warriors more viable as tanks. And on top of this, to compensate for this kind of change, they're going to give warriors more spells that increase their threat level, as I understand it. To give Lancers kind of a backdrop on that, they're going to give Lancers more solo playability, which I think is a great thing as well. Everyone should be able to solo in this game. Why not give Lancers the ability to, or at least improve it? I don't think that I'm going to be affected by this change too much. The only thing I think of is when I'm pumping out massive deeps, sometimes I have a warrior tank, and if I crit I lose aggro, or he loses aggro rather, and I end up dying. So it's going to be good for that. Maybe warriors can hold threat more, and I'm not going to be dying every 2 minutes in instances and raging at my priest to revive. I don't know when this change is going to be into effect. It's going to be good. It's going to be interesting to see how warriors and lancers adapt to this stamina bar. I don't play either class, so as I say, unless they change archers, don't really care. But it's important for the community to know about this, and of course, as I said before, links in the description. If you want to find out more, you can check there. Not much information on when it's due, but I can't see it coming within the next month. And to round up this week's wonderful episode of TERA in 10, I'm going to introduce a new segment called The Forums. As the title might have already given away, The Forums is this section of the show where we take a look at the thrills and spills of the TERA community via the official message boards. Today's mention goes to a thread created by Mr. Brenda Banger, gloriously entitled Campfire Regens Need Buffing, and as soon as I saw it, I instantly agreed. Essentially, he makes two suggestions that could reform how campfires work. If you don't know how it works at the moment, basically if someone dies or if you're battling for a very long time, you start to lose stamina, and in order to regen that stamina you need to put down a campfire. Campfires regenerate both your health and stamina at a very slow rate, and I dislike any sort of game mechanic that requires you to sit there for any period of time that isn't absolutely necessary. I mean, when you're talking campfires, we're talking maybe a minute to 5 minutes of resting there in order to get, fully loaded. Further down in the thread, a Mr. Tamek offered two solutions, and one of them was to be able to put in more fire to the campfire, and another one was to create an upgrade called bonfires, which obviously provided faster stamina regeneration and health, but the offset of that was they were more expensive. I completely agree with both of these points. Every single time I've run Cultist Refuge, if someone's died, the team hasn't bothered to wait, and the reason why is because it just simply isn't worth the time. Now, of course, the offset of that is one person in the group is going to have lower HP and lower damage, so if they've already died once, and after that death they're weaker than they were before, there's a chance they're going to die again, and of course then if they have 0 stamina, you really do have to wait a very long time for that stamina to regen. Now, of course, this wouldn't be an issue if everyone ran around with the purple stamina pots. You can buy them from NPCs, I think. They're fairly cheap. But of course, people don't do that. And even if one person does, you can't just trade off one purple veil. In one run I did with Cultist Refuge, someone dies, they lost stamina, I went to give them a pot, and unfortunately I had to give them a whole stack of 20 that I'd purchased, because you can't hand over one. Stacking interface only works in the bank. So a very good shout out to those two posts on the official forums, and I completely agree with the sentiments of both of them. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me for this week's episode of TERA in 10. If you have any suggestions, queries, comments or concerns, leave something in the appropriate official forum thread or just below this video. This has been episode 2 of TERA in 10. Have a wonderful week, and I hope you enjoy playing TERA.